yesterday or 2 days ago now, the Bootleg Football podcast came out and said that the Pittsburgh Steelers have at least had a conversation with the Chicago Bears about moving up to pick 9. Seemingly, you have to guess that that's for one of the big names, Christian Gonzalez, Paris Johnson, maybe Devin Witherspoon. When you read this, were you surprised? Did you say, "Oh, okay, Omar, this is following the trend"? What was your instant reaction here?
Well, I love the aggressiveness, first of all. Just even if it's just doing your homework on in kind of an aggressive manner like that, I love it. Who knows how likely it was? Who knows how far these talks progressed? But you got to like that Omar Khan swinging for the fences a little bit and just putting all of his options on the table. You kind of when he said that at the combine that all options are on the table. We'll do whatever it takes to get whatever player we want. That sounds a lot like a cliche, and you kind of take it with a grain of salt. But I think this is some proof that he really meant what he said and that he wants to be aggressive and that that this is real.
Yeah.
The most interesting part I thought of that report was that they kept mentioning tackles, that they mentioned it was a move that would be made if they thought they could get one of those top tier tackles, which I thought was interesting. Just we've heard corner over and over again. The idea that, especially because, and we'll get into this with your mock draft a little bit later, but there'll be some tackles at least that are going to fall to 17. It feels like
there might be. My initial thought was, I like the move. I like the aggressiveness. I agree with you. I think that we've talked about this time and time again. 17 is a dead zone. You don't know what to expect. I think there's too many questions at 17 to feel comfortable about any one player or any one position. You move into the top 10, you got your pickings. And I think that's the biggest question is, what are your pick? Like, what is your best option? Is it Christian Gonzalez? Does he even make it to 9? Is it Devin Witherspoon? Does he even make it to 9? Is it Paris Johnson or Broderick Jones or Peter Skoronski? I think just judging off of what we've talked about, and we talked about it on Monday, that they brought Christian Gonzalez in for a pre-draft visit. The only way that you're going to land Christian Gonzalez is to move up into that top 10 and go get him. Maybe that's their thought process there. I got to ask this, and I know how I feel about it, and we'll get to that in a sec, but you look at this and you say, okay, well, if they move up and they go get a corner, it's probably going to be Gonzalez, or maybe it's going to be Witherspoon. Do you feel comfortable? Like, do you feel like that's the right move? Or do you, with how large the cornerback class is, you could find somebody at 17. It might not be one of these top 4 guys, but somebody's going to be there. We talk about Keely Ringo being there at 32. You got to feel comfortable about 32. If you move up to the top 10 to go get a corner, I kind of just, are you moving up for the wrong reasons, I guess?
No, yeah, I get that question. But no, I don't think you're moving up for the wrong reasons. I think one of the things we talked about at kind of the beginning of draft season was the need for game changers, the need for a day one starter, a guy to get not just to get the fan base excited, but to really be a star. And so to that end, I don't think moving up is that bad of an idea. I know they have a lot of needs, and I know in one sense having depth with your picks is a really good option, but no, I think there's a bigger, more pressing need for kind of game changers on both sides of the ball, but I think more pressingly on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a lot of guys who are real solid, but not a ton of guys that can completely flip a game on its head or make, a game-changing play. Minka's been able to do that. TJ's been able to do that, but some support for them and just another potential star that's, on a rookie deal and all that. I think that's a much more pressing need. So no, I don't think trading up would be trading up for the wrong reasons, especially if you're able to. I think it's a different conversation if you're landing a corner versus a tackle, though.
Do you see? So my thought is, and I agree with you. Like, I like the approach of going to get somebody that is an instant game changer. There's no question marks. It's your guy. You need a corner. Go get a corner. Can't be upset about that one. My thought is, if it's a tackle, as long as it's the tackle. Like, I think Peter Skoronski's got questions about where he plays in the NFL. That's a concern. I think Broderick Jones is a stud. So if you go get him, cool. But I don't think you got to move up to 9 to go get him. I just lock in on Paris Johnson and say, well, if they love Paris Johnson, and everybody wants to talk about DeJuan Jones and how much they love DeJuan Jones, and I think that DeJuan Jones is really, that love is real. But they took Paris Johnson out to dinner as well. They attended his pro day as well. They met with him at the combine as well. Like they didn't bring him in for a pre-draft visit. I get that, but at the same time, like a pre-draft visit isn't to do anything outside of talk about who you are as a person. Nobody's running 40s or catching passes on a pre-draft visit. You're getting a tour of the facility. You're meeting with this guy, probably his agent, maybe his family, and you're learning about who this guy is as a person. They probably don't need to ask Paris Johnson anything. DeJuan Jones has plenty of question marks about him. Is he a left tackle? Is he a right tackle? Is he healthy after his injury at the Senior Bowl? What's going on here? Paris Johnson, stud. That's all you need, is stud. He was no matter where you put him at Ohio State, he's played 3 different positions on the offensive line. He succeeded at all of them. I just don't think there's any questions there. In my eyes, my first thought was they're going to get Paris Johnson because he'll likely be there at 9. And I have a hard time saying that if he's available and you could finish off this offensive line after all the effort that you've put into it so far, you're going to pass that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand that, but I also think they put a lot of work into building this secondary up. I think they've set it up. I think they've set it up for a young corner to come in and really, really thrive. I see. Okay, I can see the tackle argument now more, but if we're talking about game changers and someone who could really make an instant impact for a team that's right on the edge of playoff contention, I have to imagine the added value of an elite corner is going to be higher than the added value of an elite tackle, even a tackle, especially a rookie tackle.
I don't disagree with that. I do agree with that because I think that you could leave Dan Moore in there and bring in Christian Gonzalez, and your team in year 1 has an immediate upgrade that's better than if you replace Dan Moore with Paris Johnson and, just have the same corners as you had a year ago. I do agree with that one. So I think the next important part of this conversation, though, and like what maybe defines where they go with that first pick is, what do you give up? If you're moving up to 9, what do you have to give up? I like threw a fun spin off of this in a mock draft yesterday just to see like, okay, well, if they move up to 9, what happens? My thought was it's Omar Khan. So, you always got to expect a little bit of magic. My trade was 17, 49, and a second next year. Do you think that gets the job done? Because it gives them 2 picks now. You're not like moving up to 6 or something. You know what I mean? You're going up to 9. And when they gave up the Bush trade, I want to say it was just their current first rounder and next year's first rounder. So to give up a second and then give up a second next year, I feel like evens that out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like these trades even these trades into the top 10 don't actually go for as much as you might think they would,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the Panthers moving up into
number 1.
to 1. Yeah, that package was far behind what I thought it was going to be, especially with two elite quarterbacks at the top of this draft that they most obviously need. I thought the Bears would have been able to squeeze a little bit more out of that. So I'm compelled to say that would get the job done, and that would be, if it could, that would be an absolute steal.
Yes,
that's
easy.
Like you would do that in a heartbeat. Like, who cares about that second round pick? Like, who gives? Like, who cares? You
already have one. You have the best second round pick there. Like, already, you could give up your second one. It's no big deal.
Right. Right. So like that would be absolutely ideal. I would do that in a heartbeat. And I don't know if it's the Bears, right? Bears have number 9 now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're the Bear. Like, if you're the Bears, do you say no? Like that?
I think the Bears win on that one. They get 17. They don't have like a pressing need. I think the Bears are under the understanding, at least listening to this guy on the podcast, my understanding of his understanding of the Bears was the Bears kind of realized this is going to be a bad year. You know, you got to work through the bad to get to the good. And they're just trying to get as many picks as humanly possible to bring in as much young talent as humanly possible. I think 17, you still have really good options compared to what you're going to get at 9. Like, what are you going to get at 9 that you can't get at 17? If you're the Bears, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you have 2 positions that you need to draft in the first round, being at 9 is valuable. If you're the Chicago Bears, where you could draft literally anybody on the board and it upgrades your team, 17 is a very good pick. 49, and you get another second next year. So you could add, you know, another weapon next year, or you could use that to move up. I just think that it does make a lot of sense. But if you have 32, so say you have 32 still available, does that change your thought of a corner? Because I think that the tackles that will be there at 32 will be much less impressive than the corners that will be there at 32. Maybe.
That is true. Yeah, because I remember, you know, this is leaking into our next segment a little bit, but your mock draft,
yeah,
you think that Keely Ringo is still going to be there at 32, which
32, yes, I think Ringo's there.
That guy continues to like fall so much, and I don't really understand why.
I don't know. Derek explained it to me, and I have watched some of his tape. You know, I'm not as big of a tape guy when it comes to the college guys as a lot of these people, but you know, and you got to give those credit because some of these guys put in just insane amounts of work to watch this film. The way Derek explained it to me is his biggest downfall, and I've caught on to this now watching after I've been explained to, is that he has no back pedal, like none. It's an immediate, I'm running with you. If you got to make a cut, I'm already a step behind, sometimes 2 steps behind. That could hurt you. But at the same time, like at 32, you know, are you expecting to get somebody that is an immediate superstar? Are you looking for somebody who could be a superstar? On top of that, like, you know, we're going to bounce off the Fan Nation draft, and Emmanuel Forbes is still on the board. That dude's an immediate superstar in the NFL, it feels like, unless, you know, nobody plays that small or ever has played that small, but maybe breaks the mold, you know. But at the same time, Darnell Wright might be there. DeJuan Jones might still be there, you know. So is the argument, do you take a chance on, you know, is your love, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, is your love more for DeJuan Jones or is it for Keely Ringo? I think that's the biggest question there.
Yeah. It's just weird to have their second pick be informing their first pick so much. Like, who's going to be available at their It's just incredibly odd because at 17 they're completely at the mercy of the draft. The people drafting ahead of them. But at 32, it feels like the possibilities are endless.
Yep, that's because they are. I mean, your expectations are much lower, but the possibilities are. I think that's it. It's like at 9, if you move up to 9, your face value, even if it's at corner or if it's at tackle, is high. Like you match the value of the pick. Whereas in 17, chances are you're not going to match the value of that pick. You're gonna have to drop below it. And the question is, how far are you willing to drop? Like, are you willing to go as deep as a DeJuan Jones and say, well, maybe this guy's a 2nd round pick, but we're going to draft him at 17. Same with Ringo, or I guess Deonte Banks is like a mid 1st rounder. So he kind of fits into that conversation. Same with Emmanuel Forbes, I guess. Or, you know, if you move, and then at the same time at 32, you know, that face value is kind of back again. Like, it's like, okay, well, DeJuan Jones at 32 is a good pick. Darnell Wright at 32 is a good pick. Emmanuel Forbes or Keely Ringo or Tyreek Stevenson at 32, very good pick. Josh Downs, like, you know, you get into the wide receivers. I just think that 17 is just like, you're not going to match the value of the pick.
Yeah.
9, you could, which is good because I came into this conversation like firmly, it's got to be Paris Johnson or nobody. But, you know, you land a Christian Gonzalez, that Christian Gonzalez turns into Jalen Ramsey. Like, that's worth the 9th pick in the draft. That's a steal. Like, you just got a star. Same with Devin Witherspoon, you know, a number of other guys. So maybe, I mean, me leaving this conversation, in my eyes, I'm much more interested in that 9th pick than I was, because I just looked at it like it had to be a tackle, which is very exciting. I think Paris Johnson's an absolute monster. But if you could go both ways, I think that's also very, very, very exciting. All Steelers Talk has officially launched their own clothing brand, Black and Gold Apparel, now available on bonfire.com or at the shop tab at our YouTube page. your new favorite place for Steelers t-shirts, sweatshirts, and crew necks, now out, now available in multiple designs, including some of my favorites, Kenny Comeback, Mute, and Kenny DeGeorge. Check them all out at bonfire.com or on the shop tab at our YouTube page.